I did a thing. I couldn't help myself. I happened to be working at the time, stopped at a little bistro, had a little snack, and then boom, plant shop right next to me. Did not know, never been there. Went into Nicholson, and this is where we are today. Basically, I'm obsessed, first of all, side note, with this nursery. If you are in the DFW area, go there, or don't go there, so there's more plants for me. Go there, and you will be stunned at how beautiful. Side note on the plant video, but this place is phenomenal. One side's all pots and customs and clay and pottery. The other side is all plants, like rare plants. They had a bunch of Thai constellations. They had a lot of pink princesses. They had a lot of different plants also that you would never see, and in such mature status. I saw a gloriosum that was literally the size of my body, and I'm 100% going back to go get that. It's going to be my bonus plant for me later on when I save up for it. But in today's video, I got this beautiful baby because I just could not help myself, and I do not have her in my collection. And I thought it would be a good idea to go through what I do when I get a new plant, because there's always a process. You don't just, well, I don't just go get a plant and just throw it on my shelf. No. Between examining, between repotting, if it's going to have a moss pole or not, I'm going to go through it step by step with you on what I do for my new plants. So enjoy the video. Okay guys, we're back at my table, and this is kind of where I'm going to be doing all of my assessing and everything else I need to do. So we're looking at the beautiful plant. She's gorgeous, so obviously I loved her, so I brought her home. So I'm gonna go ahead and take her out the packaging. Again, go check out Nicholson Hardy Nursery and Garden Center. Really good plant center. So now I'm just gonna take her out, which I forgot my label maker, but I love to label make all of my plants just so I know the correct name of them when I'm talking about them, because obviously I have a lot and it can slip my mind. So she is in a 4-inch pot. I see a root here. The root it looks really dry from what I see so far. And we are going to take her out of this pot and see if she needs to be potted up or see if she needs to be potted down. But I will be putting a moss pole in here, so I think I'm going to have to pot her up anyway. But so far, I do see some speckles on her leaves, which means I'm gonna have to go through and definitely clean them, which I normally always clean my leaves. I try to leave the ones that are fairly new alone, like this new one right here, but I'm gonna go ahead and clean the other leaves and make sure I get below them as well. I don't see any bugs yet, so I'm still gonna go ahead and clean the leaves either way. So first things first, I'm going to take my neem oil, just normal neem oil, and I'm going to go ahead and spray her down. I'm going to be using a microfiber towel or cloth. First, let me go ahead and get my potting station ready. So from what I can see with her, obviously, I'm going to clean her first, take her out of her pot and set her to the side. And I do want her to get bigger leaves, and to encourage those bigger, fuller leaves, we're going to put her on a moss pole. Again, reasons for moss poles. It allows their root system to grow upwards with them rather than in the pot below. So if their root system is growing with them throughout each leaf, you can chop your plant at any point of time and it'll still have a solid enough root system where it won't completely die. You can just pot it in another pot. Also, you don't have to keep sizing up on the plant so much when it comes to the bottom pot. You can stay in the same pot, and it won't continue to encourage growth at the bottom. It'll encourage the growth and nutrients throughout the roots that are going throughout the plant, which is really awesome because it saves you a lot of space in the long run when it comes to where your pot's going. But obviously, your plant is going to thrive, so it's going to get a lot bigger. Okay, so I have my little potting station here. I am going to go ahead and put the camera a little bit down just so you can see kind of what I'm doing. And these have a very velvety type leaf on them. So I'm going to try to be extremely careful not to wet them too much because I know they don't like it. But I'm definitely going to get in between the veins and the nooks and crannies of it. I want to be sure this plant is pest free so it doesn't bring home any gifts with it. First leaf is done. So her leaves are clean. Now I'm going to take her out because I want to assess what's going on with roots. Obviously, you know, with nurseries, the dirt, I always love to change the dirt out just in case, but a really aerated dirt. So, but you can tell it's kind of old. So I'm going to go ahead and dump this out. Trying not to mess too much with the plant. Okay. So that's what we have here. This is our plant. I see there's some fertilizer in there, which is great. This is like really chunky. So I'm just going to take out as much as I can of this old dirt, and it's just so I can assess the roots. Trying very hard not to break anything. Now, a lot of people will wet the roots. Depending on the plant, I will, but honestly, I just want her to have like a very smooth transition into another pot if need be, or into new dirt. So I'm just gonna leave her as is. So that's great, but it does have a really good root system for the size plant it is. It is a pretty small root system, so I'm going to kind of want to keep it in the same pot. I'm trying to see what I want to do with her. I think I could still fit a moss pole in here. Since I make them custom myself, I'll be able to fit a small one in here. Yep, that's what I'm gonna do. That's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep it in the same pot, and I'm just gonna make a small moss pole. So now she's out. We're gonna put her to the side. We are gonna start with the size of my moss pole. Here, this is 3 feet long. So I am going to cut, it's definitely not gonna be that big. So we're gonna unravel this. And basically I like to cut my mesh first. So I'm thinking pretty small. So I kind of want my moss pole about that big around. So I am going to cut right here. Just eyeball it, but and remember, she's a big plant, but she has a small pot, so I can't make it too thick, but I can make it a little taller. And I don't want to have to keep changing my moss pole, so I'm gonna make it a little bit taller than the plant, or a little bit taller than where the first node is. And I'm going to measure by laying down my plant. So her node is pretty tall, and it's going to take her a bit before she latches on. And I can always extend it later. I'm going to add a few more notches. And then we are going to Okay, so that's it for that mesh, which I'm gonna put it away. Ow. Okay, so we're working with this right here. So this is how tall how wide we're gonna do it. I'm gonna cut off these little really sharp edges off the side just because, and they're about to go everywhere like they always do. Okay. So I cut off the sharp edges, and this is about how thick our moss pole is going to be. She doesn't have a huge root system yet on the stem, so it doesn't have to be too big. Plus, I want the plant to be able to fit on my shelf. So perfect. Now we are going to get some moss. I am going to be using this moss right here, and it is long fibered sphagnum moss. It comes in like a really dry container. And these are just a couple of zip ties. I currently have my moss soaking in water. You kind of like to leave it in water for a little bit, probably about 5 minutes or so, and make sure your moss is broken up, because you do want your plants take out anything random. You do want your plants to have room to just keep growing in it. If you have a bunch of clumped pieces, every time you go to water it, it's going to be harder for you to completely saturate that. So I have mine just in water, soaking, and then I take it apart a little bit. So I'm going to put that to the side. And then I have some zip ties. I have tiny, tiny zip ties actually that I just got these. I was using bigger ones, but these were a better deal to get like 1,000 for $7, and they're super small, so you won't be able to see them when you're tying up your moss pole. So I am going to bring back this bad boy. And then I have my plant here. I'm going to move it to the side. And like this on here. So with my moss, my upper shoulders. So with my moss, I'm just going to keep squishing it around. You don't want it to be drenched when it gets in there. You just kind of want it to be moist. So squish around while you're in your, while it's in your potting, or while your moss is in your water. Squish it around, make sure everything's broken down, make sure everything's drenched. Now you're going to take some of it, also assess. I want this to be at the top, that black piece to be at the top, so I'm going to put it like that. I'm going to take my moss, squeeze the water, not completely out, but enough so it's not drenched, and you're just going to lay it on your moss pole. I am going to keep about an inch or an inch and a half empty, just so that I can fill this part with dirt so it can settle in the container nicely. Because if you fill it all with moss, the bottom dirt is going to stay wet, and it's going to affect your plant. Also, if you fill it with the dirt, it's going to be able to stay more without falling over or anything like that, because it's going to be more stable. I'm going to fill this moss all the way to the top. Use here. Still leaving that little bit of space there. And I want to make sure this is completely full, because she has a lot of roots to grow, so I want to make sure this moss is bursting out of this pole. Oh God, I just spilled water everywhere. Okay, she seems pretty solid. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this, which is always a pain in the butt, because if you fill it too much or when you fill it a lot, it's hard to close. So sometimes you have to take some out. We will see how this goes. But I do want it to be really full. Enough. Not too much though. That's a little too much. It's all trial and error because you never know how much is too much. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna close the top first. Take your zip tie, go through, put it through, zip tie. Now I'm gonna do the bottom. This is just an easier way of what I found it how to do it. It just seems easier when you zip tie the top and the bottom. Okay, I got a little boat looking thing, and then I'm going to zip tie the middle. And this is where you can kind of spread your moss around where you like. I like to make sure it's even. So I don't want it to be not even. There we go. This is the middle. I got some moss coming out of there. This is very obviously, you know, if you have plants, it gets messy. It gets pretty messy, so I do recommend these plant mats because they do save you from a lot of mess. So I'm going to squish this. Now you're basically just zip tying. You don't have to zip tie every square, but I would zip tie enough to where it doesn't burst open. So I'm zip tying probably like every 3 squares. So now I have all this going. I tightened everything, making sure everything's stable. And now I'm just gonna cut these zip ties off. Just cut them off. Oh God, the just flew. Okay, so that's cut off. I do have a little bit of space in here, and I think I'm just gonna leave it alone because when I re-wet this, I like to put the end, let me see, let me show you. You have to make sure this moss pole stays pretty moist. So I cut a hole on the top of a water bottle, and then when it's standing up, you're gonna flip it over and it'll just automatically water itself. If you make sure it's moist a lot, it's gonna go straight through to the thing. But if you let it dry out, it becomes very water resistant and starts spraying water everywhere. So make sure you keep it moist. So now I have this. So you have these little zip ties sticking out. Then you're just gonna fold them in or back. I'm gonna show you. You see? Now you have these are already inside. Just fold them backwards. We're gonna go on to the dirt process. Our planting process, my apologies. So, you have your plant, and she's going back in the same container. I made my moss pole small enough to where there's a lot more space still in there. So now I'm going to get my dirt, which I placed in here. So now I'm gonna fill it up a little bit. So fill it up to the bottom. And then now I'm gonna take my moss pole, and it's kind of messy. So take my moss pole and fill that also with dirt, the bottom half. And again, you're doing this for stability and so your dirt doesn't get super moist or stay moist all the time. Because you don't want your roots sitting in water. Oh God, just tapped a lot of that out. And I am a heavy waterer, so I like to use my special soil mix, meaning perlite and orchid bark, normal just the normal stuff. Okay, so now she's in there. I'm gonna put some dirt around her just so for stability. And then now I'm going to plant my plant. Now she's sitting in there great. Now I'm gonna put my plant in there. When I plant mine, I'm gonna need that in a second. When I plant mine, I like to look for where the nodes are and where the roots are coming out of. You see right here, you have roots coming out of that. That's the part that I want stuck to my moss pole. So I'm going to place her in here. Okay, and she's gonna look great right there. So now I'm gonna just hold her down with my finger. I'm holding her down in there with my thumb, and I'm gonna add some dirt just to fill her up. And once you water, obviously a lot of the dirt is gonna go away, or it's gonna kind of get more placed in your pot. So I'm gonna add a lot of dirt to the pot. There we go. And add a little bit more to this side, just so when I water it, it'll be okay. Okay. She's placed in there. She's really stable. Alrighty, we have the plant tape. She's looking really good. She's like right this. This is what she looks like from the front. So now I'm gonna take my plant tape, cut a pretty decent size. And this is literally plant Velcro. So what I'm wanting to do is put it around the stem. Which, let me look at it this way to make sure I do it correctly. I'm gonna put it around this stem to make sure the plant is securely stuck to the moss pole. Yes. And I want it to be really stuck because you want those roots to hit the wetness of the moss pole so it will start growing. And I do have a new leaf coming out, so I just want to make sure everyone is happy. And then I'm just going to take a look at the side just to make sure that the roots are stuck to the moss pole. And they are. Okay, so now we have our plant on our moss pole. She, if you can see in there, the plant tape's on there. She looks great. I am going to add more dirt to the back of the moss pole so she stands up pretty straight. Okay, and let me go wet the dirt because you want to wet your dirt just to make sure she's in place. She's not going to move. Okay, so I'm back and my plant looks really, really good. So she's chilling there, and then I wet completely her dirt. It would be good for you to let it soak for a little bit, but other than that, she's good. Now we are going to do the finishing touches. So she's potted up, she's clean, we disinfected her, she's potted, we made the moss pole, decided what we're gonna do. And now I'm just gonna have one of these, just so that when I water her, it doesn't get everywhere. Okay, so now that our plant is completely potted up, everything, she's doing great. Like, um, we did everything we needed to do. We are going to put her in her spot. You need to know what your plant likes, what kind of light it likes, what it doesn't like. So these plants do like a lot of light, but they do not like direct sunlight. And when it comes to making your own moss poles, all you have to do is just attach one to the top and just keep going up. That's all you have to do. So let me go put her in her spot and I will show you where I end up putting her. I ended up putting her right next to my Philodendron Splendid. As you can see, she's doing so good. She's just got a new leaf. But yeah, she's right here. I feel like this is a great spot for her right now. It has a lot of grow lights over there, so she'll be able to thrive and continue to grow beautiful leaves. Other than that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope it helped you in some sort of way.